The courtroom fell silent as the woman in civilian clothes stood before the judge, her shoulders squared despite the whispers rippling through the gallery. Sarah Mitchell had been accused of stolen valor, of pretending to be a Navy SEAL to gain respect and benefits she hadn't earned. The prosecutor's voice had been sharp and certain, claiming she was a fraud who disgraced real heroes. But Sarah said nothing in her defense, her jaw set tight, her dark eyes revealing nothing but quiet determination. The media had already convicted her in the court of public opinion, and now everyone waited for the judge to deliver justice. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. It had started 3 weeks earlier at a veterans event in downtown San Diego. Sarah had worn a simple jacket with no insignia, no patches, nothing to draw attention. But when a former Marine named Derek Hutchins spotted her across the room, something about her bearing caught his eye. He approached with a friendly smile and asked if she'd served. Sarah had hesitated, then quietly said yes. When Derek pressed further, asking what branch and unit, she'd simply said, "Special Operations," and tried to change the subject. But Derek wouldn't let it go, and when she finally mentioned the SEALs, his expression changed from curiosity to suspicion. Derek had friends who were SEALs, real ones, and he'd never heard of a woman completing Bud-S training. The Navy had only recently opened SEAL training to women, and to his knowledge, none had graduated yet. He confronted Sarah right there, his voice rising above the music. "You're lying," he'd said, anger coloring his words. "Women can't be SEALs. You're disrespecting everyone who earned that trident." Sarah's face had gone pale, but she hadn't defended herself. She'd simply walked away, leaving Derek convinced he'd exposed a fraud. Within days, Derek's accusations spread across social media like wildfire. Veterans groups picked up the story, news outlets ran headlines about the fake female SEAL, and angry messages flooded Sarah's accounts. Someone found out she'd been receiving veterans' benefits and reported her to the authorities. The investigation moved quickly, and soon Sarah found herself charged with stolen valor, a federal crime that could mean prison time and public disgrace. Her lawyer, a patient woman named Jennifer Ross, begged her to explain herself, to provide any evidence of her service. But Sarah remained frustratingly silent, saying only, "I can't talk about it." The trial began on a cold Monday morning at 9:30 a.m., and the prosecution came out swinging. They presented testimony from SEAL instructors who confirmed no woman named Sarah Mitchell had ever graduated from Bud-S. They showed her military records, which listed her as a Navy intelligence analyst, not a special operator. They painted a picture of a disturbed woman who'd fabricated an identity to feel important. Derek took the stand and described their encounter, his voice thick with righteous anger. "She looked me in the eye and claimed something sacred," he testified. "She stole the honor that my brothers died earning." Jennifer Ross's cross-examination was gentle but pointed. "Mr. Hutchins, did Sarah ever wear a SEAL insignia or show you any documentation claiming she was a SEAL?" Derek frowned. "Well, no, but she said," Jennifer cut him off politely. "She said she was in special operations when you pressed her for details, correct? Did she volunteer this information or did you extract it through questioning?" Derek shifted uncomfortably. "I asked, but that doesn't make it okay to lie." Jennifer nodded slowly. "We'll return to what is and isn't a lie." When Sarah took the stand, the courtroom leaned forward as one. She looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way she hadn't before. The prosecutor approached like a shark sensing blood. "Ms. Mitchell, did you tell Derek Hutchins you were a Navy SEAL?" Sarah's voice was barely audible. "I told him I was in special operations." The prosecutor smiled. "But you let him believe you were a SEAL, didn't you?" "You didn't correct him." Sarah's hands trembled in her lap. "I couldn't correct him," she whispered. The prosecutor pounced. "Couldn't or wouldn't, Ms. Mitchell?" "Because it seems very convenient to hide behind semantics when—" "Objection!" Jennifer was on her feet. "Your Honor, I'd like to call a witness who can shed light on this matter. Captain Robert Chen from Naval Special Warfare Command has been waiting outside." The prosecutor looked confused. "Your Honor, this witness wasn't on the defense's list." Jennifer's expression was calm but firm. "Captain Chen only received clearance to testify at 6:15 a.m. this morning." The matters he'll discuss are classified, and we've arranged for the courtroom to be partially closed for his testimony. The judge, a stern woman named Margaret Delgado, studied Jennifer for a long moment before nodding. I'll allow it, but this had better be relevant, counselor. The courtroom buzzed with confusion as reporters and most spectators were ushered out. Only the essential parties remained. When Captain Chen entered in his dress uniform, ribbons covering his chest, even the prosecutor looked uncertain. Chen was sworn in, and Jennifer approached him carefully. Captain Chen, can you tell us about Operation Silent Echo? Chen's jaw tightened. Operation Silent Echo was a classified mission conducted 4 years ago in North Africa. Our intelligence indicated a high-value terrorist target was meeting with arms dealers. We needed someone who could get close. Someone the targets would never suspect. He paused, his eyes finding Sarah's. We needed someone who could pretend to be a relief worker, who spoke the local dialect, and who had the training to handle themselves if things went wrong. Jennifer nodded. And who did Naval Special Warfare Command select for this mission? Chen's voice was clear and proud. Petty Officer Sarah Mitchell. She'd been working in intelligence, but she had a unique skill set. She was one of a handful of female operatives trained in a pilot program for special reconnaissance. The program was so classified that officially it didn't exist. The women involved maintained cover jobs in other Navy departments. The courtroom was utterly silent. The prosecutor had gone pale. Chen continued, his words measured but powerful. Sarah spent 6 months embedded with that terrorist cell. She provided intelligence that led to the capture of 17 high-level targets and saved countless lives. During the extraction, her position was compromised. She held off hostile forces for 47 minutes until the QRF arrived, sustaining 2 gunshot wounds in the process. She was recommended for the Silver Star, but because the operation was classified, she received her medal in a ceremony that officially never happened. Derek Hutchins, still sitting in the gallery, had tears streaming down his face. Jennifer let the testimony sink in before asking, Captain Chen, when Sarah told Mr. Hutchins she was in special operations, was she lying? Chen shook his head firmly. No, ma'am. She was following protocol. Personnel from classified programs are instructed to deflect questions about their service. If pressed, they can acknowledge being in special operations, but they cannot discuss specifics. Sarah did exactly what she was trained to do. The prosecutor stood slowly. Your Honor, I need to request a recess to consult with my office. Judge Delgado's expression was unreadable. Request denied. Do you wish to continue this prosecution? The prosecutor looked at Sarah, then at Chen, then shook his head. No, Your Honor, the government moves to dismiss all charges. Judge Delgado turned to Sarah, her stern face softening. Petty Officer Mitchell, this court owes you an apology. You served your country with extraordinary courage, and you've been persecuted for protecting classified information. All charges are dismissed with prejudice. She banged her gavel, and for the first time in weeks, Sarah's shoulders sagged with relief. After the trial, Derek found Sarah outside the courthouse. I'm so sorry, he began, but Sarah stopped him with a raised hand. You did what you thought was right, she said quietly. You were protecting the honor of the teams. I understand that, Derek's voice broke, but I called you a liar. I destroyed your reputation. Sarah gave him a small, sad smile. My reputation will recover. What matters is that real operations stay classified. If I'd defended myself publicly, I'd have compromised ongoing programs. Some secrets are worth protecting, even when they hurt. As Sarah walked away into the California sunshine, Jennifer beside her, she finally allowed herself to breathe. The truth was out, at least to those who needed to know it. She'd served her country in the shadows, and she'd been willing to be branded a fraud to keep those shadows dark. That, she thought, was the truest kind of service, the kind no one would ever celebrate, the kind that asked everything and promised nothing. But she'd do it all again because some honors didn't need to be worn on a chest or spoken aloud. Some honors were carried quietly in the heart, where they mattered most.